The first human ship arrived at the edge of the Varelian Star Queendom without fanfare. It did not carry heavy weapons or shining armor. It carried diplomats, data, and a quiet hope that humanity could survive among older, stronger species. Elias Ward stood inside the observation deck, looking out at the massive structures floating in space. Crystal towers curved like frozen waves, connected by glowing bridges. The scale of it made Earth cities feel like toys. Elias had been trained not to show fear, but awe slipped through anyway. The Varelians had ruled this region of space for thousands of years. Their technology was advanced, their culture strict, and their pride legendary. Humans were newcomers, barely a few centuries into faster-than-light travel. Most alien empires saw humans as clever, but physically weak, emotional, and unpredictable. Elias adjusted his uniform and breathed slowly. He was not a soldier. He was a negotiator, chosen because he listened more than he spoke. That quality, Earth's leaders hoped, would keep humans alive. The ship docked, and Elias was escorted by towering Varelian guards. They were tall, broad, and silver-skinned, their eyes glowing faintly with inner light. None of them spoke. Their silence felt heavier than insults. He was taken through long halls filled with floating symbols and living light. Nobles watched from balconies, their expressions ranging from curiosity to open disdain. Elias kept walking, his steps steady, his hands relaxed. He reminded himself that humans had survived worse than stairs. The throne chamber was vast. At its center sat Queen Sayarinth, ruler of the Varelian Queendom. Her presence was overwhelming, not because of size, but because of control. She did not move when Elias entered. She simply observed him, as if weighing his entire species in that moment. Elias bowed in the human way, slow and respectful. "Rise, human," the queen said. Her voice was calm, layered, as if many voices spoke together. "You know why you are here," Elias hesitated. "I was told this meeting concerned diplomatic relations." "Your Majesty." That is true," she replied. "But not in the way you expect." The court was silent. Elias felt every eye on him. The queen leaned forward slightly. "Our empire is strong, yet it weakens. Internal division. Fear of change. An enemy watches us from beyond our borders, waiting for us to fall apart on our own." Elias listened carefully. He had studied Varelian history. They rarely admitted vulnerability, especially to outsiders. "My daughter will soon inherit the throne," the queen continued. "But tradition demands more than blood. It demands balance. A consort who can stabilize the crown and unite what has fractured." Elias nodded, still assuming this was background information for an alliance or treaty. Then the queen said the words that froze his thoughts. "I have summoned you to ask if you are ready to become my daughter's husband, human." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Some nobles rose from their seats. Others stared as if they had misheard. Elias felt his breath catch. But he did not step back. For a long moment, he said nothing. His mind raced through possibilities, all of them impossible. Humans did not marry alien royalty. Humans did not sit beside ancient queens. "Your Majesty," Elias said carefully, "I believe there may be a misunderstanding." "There is none," the queen replied. "I have studied your species. Humans survive not because they are the strongest, but because they adapt. You endure loss and still move forward. You fail and still try again. That quality is rare." A noble stepped forward, anger clear in his posture. "This is madness. A human cannot stand beside our future queen." The queen raised one hand, and silence returned instantly. Elias felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He thought of Earth, of fragile cities under protective shields, of humanity still finding its place. Saying yes could change everything. Saying no could end more than just this meeting. "I am honored," Elias said slowly, "but I do not understand why me." The queen's gaze sharpened. "Because you are not trying to impress me. Because you are afraid and still standing. Because my people need something we no longer have. Elias swallowed. He sensed this was not a test of pride, but of honesty. I would not pretend to be something I am not, he said. I am human. I am flawed. I am not your warrior. A soft shift rippled through the chamber. Some saw weakness. Others saw courage. That, the queen said, is exactly why you were chosen. From the shadows beside the throne, Princess Lyra stepped forward. She was tall, graceful, her expression controlled but curious. Her eyes met Elias's, and for a brief moment, the noise of the court faded away. She did not look at him with anger or expectation. She looked as if she were studying a puzzle she had not yet decided to solve. Elias felt no romance, no sudden destiny, only the heavy awareness that his life had already changed. The queen stood. You are not required to answer now. You will remain within the palace for one cycle. Observe, learn, decide. And if I refuse? Elias asked. Then you will leave unharmed, the queen said. But history will move forward without you. That was the true pressure. Not threat, but consequence. Elias bowed again. I will consider your offer with respect. As he was escorted away, whispers followed him like static. Some spoke of insult, others of curiosity. A few, quietly, of hope. That night, Elias stood alone on a balcony overlooking the capital. Ships moved like stars in controlled orbits. The queendom was beautiful, powerful, and fragile in ways few would admit. He thought of humanity's past, of wars, failures, and recoveries, of being underestimated again and again. He did not know if he belonged here, but he knew one thing clearly. Humans had never survived by turning away from the impossible. Somewhere behind him, Princess Lyra watched from a distance, unseen. She wondered whether the human would break under the weight of tradition, or reshape it entirely. And across the stars, forces waited, unaware that a single question asked in a throne room had begun to change the future of empires. The next cycle began before Elias had fully rested. The palace woke with a low hum of energy, and servants moved quickly through the halls. News of the queen's announcement had spread through the queendom like fire through dry air. By the time Elias was escorted from his chamber, everyone knew his name, his species, and the reason he was there. He was taken to an open arena, built from white stone and glowing metal. Thousands of Varelians filled the rising platforms, their voices mixing into a steady roar. Elias felt small standing at the center, surrounded by beings taller and stronger than him in every physical way. Queen Sarinth appeared above the arena, her image projected in light. Princess Lyra stood beside her, calm and silent. Tradition must be honored, the queen declared. If the human is to be considered, he must face the trials of worth. The crowd responded with approval. Elias had expected this. Ancient empires trusted rituals more than promises. The first trial was simple and brutal. Endurance. Elias was led to a platform where gravity increased slowly but constantly. Varelian warriors trained under heavy gravity from birth. Elias had trained as well, but this was different. His muscles burned, his bones ached. Each breath became heavier than the last. Around him, Varelians stood easily, watching. Some looked bored, others amused. Minutes stretched into pain. Elias's knees shook. He focused on breathing, on small movements, on staying upright for just one more moment. He did not look at the crowd. He looked at the ground and remembered why humans survived. Not by being the strongest, but by refusing to quit. When his body finally collapsed, it was not from weakness alone, but from exhaustion layered upon exhaustion. He hit the ground hard. Laughter echoed through the arena. He failed, someone shouted. The trial ended. Elias was helped up by palace medics. His vision blurred, but he remained conscious. The queen's voice echoed again. The trial measures limits, not victory. The human reached his limit honestly. That stopped the laughter. But respect did not come so easily. The second trial began the next day. Strategy, Elias was placed inside a simulated battlefield. Holographic terrain shifted around him. He was given command of a small, poorly equipped force. Opposing him was a larger, elite Varelian unit controlled by experienced commanders. Many expected a quick defeat. Elias studied the terrain quietly. He noticed narrow passes, unstable ground, and energy patterns in the simulation. He issued short, clear commands. He split his force, sacrificed territory, and retreated again and again. The Varelian commanders advanced confidently, pushing him toward what looked like a final corner. Then the ground collapsed. Elias had predicted the structural weakness. His forces struck from hidden angles, not to destroy, but to confuse. Signals were jammed. False data flooded the system. The enemy units hesitated. That hesitation was enough. The simulation ended with Elias's smaller force intact, and the elite unit surrounded, not destroyed. The arena was silent. Princess Lyra leaned forward slightly, her eyes focused. She had been taught war as domination. Elias had turned it into control. Whispers spread, different now. Less mocking. More uncertain. The third trial tested judgment. Elias was presented with a moral decision. A simulated colony faced destruction unless resources were diverted from a military outpost. Saving one meant weakening the other. There was no perfect answer. Many Varelian leaders chose strength over civilians. Elias did not. He diverted resources, saved the colony, and evacuated the outpost in stages, minimizing losses. The simulation penalized him for reduced military readiness, but the final outcome showed long-term stability. Some nobles scoffed. Others frowned in thought. Humans protect weakness. One muttered, "They invest in the future." Another replied quietly. Between trials, Elias was watched closely. Some nobles tested him with cold words. Others tried subtle manipulation. Elias answered politely, honestly, and refused to play political games he did not understand. Princess Lyra began walking beside him in the palace gardens. At first, they spoke little, then more. "You are not afraid of failing," she said one evening. "I am," Elias replied. "I just don't let it decide for me." That answer stayed with her. On the fourth day, the final trial began. Leadership under pressure. Elias was placed in command during a live emergency. A reactor failure threatened part of the capital. Varelian engineers hesitated, bound by protocol. Elias listened, assessed, and broke tradition. He ordered evacuation before approval. He redirected energy manually. He trusted junior engineers over senior titles. The reactor stabilized. Damage was contained. Lives were saved. The court reacted with outrage and relief at the same time. He disobeyed protocol, a noble shouted. He saved citizens, another argued. The queen watched silently. That night, Elias returned to his chamber exhausted. He believed the trials were over. They were not. As he slept, shadows moved. A blade flashed. Elias woke to pain and instinct. He rolled, knocking the weapon aside. The attacker moved fast, silent, Varelian. Elias was not stronger, but he was desperate. He struck blindly, using the environment, smashing a light panel into the attacker's face. Guards burst in moments later. The assassin was restrained. Under questioning, the truth emerged. A noble faction feared change more than defeat. Elias was a threat to tradition. The news shook the court. At the public hearing, Elias was asked if he wished to withdraw for his safety. He stood slowly, bruised but steady. "No," he said. "If I leave now, nothing changes. If I stay, maybe something does." Princess Lyra looked at him with new understanding. The queen rose once more. "The trials are complete." The crowd waited. "The human has not won by our measures," the queen continued. "He has shown us new ones." Silence followed, heavy and thoughtful. Elias was not declared victor. He was declared worthy of consideration. That night, as stars moved silently above the capital, Elias stood again on the balcony. His body hurt. His future was uncertain. But for the first time since arriving, he felt something shift. The Queendom was watching him now, not as a curiosity, as a possibility, and across the stars, unseen by all, enemy fleets adjusted their paths. Sensing weakness they believed they could exploit, unaware that a human's quiet strength was already changing the shape of the coming war. The warning came without ceremony. No dramatic announcement, no proud declaration of war. It arrived as broken signals from the outer systems, scattered reports that did not match, and silence where there should have been routine communication. The Varelian frontier was being tested. Elias was in the strategy hall when the first confirmed data appeared. Star maps shifted, glowing points turning red at the edge of the Queendom. The Car Dominion had begun its advance. The Car were old rivals of the Varelians, strong in numbers and aggressive by nature. They believed in overwhelming force and direct conquest. For generations, the threat of the Car had kept the Varelians united through fear. But now, internal division had weakened that unity, and the Car had noticed. Varelian commanders gathered quickly. Their voices filled the hall, sharp and confident on the surface, tense underneath. They spoke of mobilizing fleets, reinforcing borders, and meeting strength with strength. Elias stood quietly at the edge of the room. No one had asked for his input yet. He knew why. He was still human, still untested in real war. Princess Lyra entered and took her place near the command table. Her presence settled the room slightly. When her eyes met Elias's, she gave a small nod, a silent invitation. The Queen arrived last. She listened as the commanders presented their plans. Each one relied on traditional formations, predictable responses, and direct confrontation. Plans that had worked before, but against an enemy that had learned their patterns. When the Queen finally spoke, her voice cut through the room. "We will not decide today. We will hear all perspectives." Eyes turned, slowly, toward Elias. He felt the weight of the moment press down on him. He was not here to prove himself anymore. He was here because failure now would cost lives. "If I may speak," Elias said calmly. Some commanders stiffened, others looked away. "You may," the Queen said. Elias stepped forward. He did not raise his voice. He did not use dramatic language. "The Car expect you to fight as you always have," he said. "They are advancing because they believe you are divided and predictable. They want you to react quickly and commit fully. That is how wars are fought," a commander replied. "That is how wars are lost," Elias said gently. Murmurs spread through the room. Elias continued. "Humans have fought enemies stronger than us many times. We survived by making the battlefield uncertain, by forcing the enemy to doubt their own information." He proposed something unfamiliar. Controlled retreats, false signals, fleets that appeared vulnerable but were empty, supply lines that vanished when attacked. No single decisive battle, but many small pressures. Princess Lyra listened closely. The Queen's expression remained unreadable. After a long silence, the Queen spoke. "We will test the human strategy on a limited front." It was not full trust. But it was enough. The first engagement was quiet. Varelian forces withdrew from an outer system, leaving behind what looked like damaged defenses. The Car moved in confidently. They found nothing. Sensors malfunctioned. Communication lagged. Phantom fleets appeared and vanished. Small Varelian units struck supply ships and disappeared before retaliation. The Car commanders grew frustrated. They pushed deeper, trying to force a real fight. Elias watched the reports from the command center. He did not celebrate small victories. He watched patterns. Human officers, working alongside Varelians, adapted quickly. Differences in culture mattered less when survival was at stake. Princess Lyra stood beside him, often now. She asked questions. He answered honestly, never pretending certainty where there was none. "You are not trying to defeat them quickly," she said. "No," Elias replied. "I'm trying to make them afraid to move." The Car made their mistake when they committed their largest fleet to what they believed was a weakened sector. It was a trap, but not the kind they expected. There was no massive ambush, no glorious battle. Instead, Their communications collapsed. Navigation data conflicted. Their own ships blocked retreat paths. By the time they realized the danger, their formation was broken. Virelian forces struck carefully, precisely. Enough to force withdrawal. Enough to send a message. The car retreated. For the first time in generations, the Virelian queendom had repelled them without a major loss. Celebration spread through the capital, but it was cautious. Everyone knew this was not the end. Elias did not rest. He studied intercepted data, noticing something troubling. The car had not committed their full strength. This had been a test, just as much as the trials had been. "They are measuring us," Elias said to the Queen and Lyra. "And now they know we are different." "Different is dangerous," a commander replied. "Yes," Elias said, "but predictable is fatal." Internal pressure grew. Some nobles accused Elias of weakening tradition. Others credited him with saving the empire. Tension spread through the court, sharp and unstable. Then came the second threat. A coordinated sabotage attempt struck multiple systems at once. Power failures, data corruption, panic. It was not the car, it was internal. The same faction that had tried to kill Elias had acted again, believing chaos would force a return to old ways. This time, they failed. Virelian security, reorganized using Elias's methods, anticipated the attack. The conspirators were exposed publicly. Their fear of change laid bare for all to see. The queendom watched as the truth unfolded. Elias did not demand punishment. He did not speak in anger. "They are afraid," he said. "Fear makes people destroy what they do not understand." Princess Lyra addressed the court. Her voice was steady, strong. "Fear will no longer rule us," she said. "We will adapt, or we will fall." The words echoed through the hall. For the first time, many saw her not just as heir, but as ruler. As the car prepared their next move, something unexpected happened. Messages arrived from smaller species near the border. They had watched the conflict. They had seen the queendom change. They offered cooperation. The Virelians had always stood alone. Now, alliances formed quietly, naturally. Humanity's influence spread not through conquest, but through example. Elias stood once more on the palace balcony, watching ships move in careful patterns. Princess Lyra joined him. "You changed us," she said. "We changed each other," Elias replied. She studied him for a long moment. "The Queen believes the car will return in force." "They will," Elias said. "And when they do, they won't just face your fleets. They will face an idea. Below them, the queendom prepared. No longer divided by fear or pride alone. Something new was forming. Something flexible. Something human. Far beyond the stars, car warlords gathered their forces, convinced that the queendom's recent success was a trick that could be crushed by sheer power. They did not yet understand the danger. They were not fighting an empire anymore. They were fighting adaptation itself. The return of the car dominion did not come with hesitation. This time, their fleets moved openly, their numbers vast, their intent clear. They believed that what they had seen before was deception and luck. They believed overwhelming force would erase uncertainty. Across the Virelian queendom, alarms sounded, but there was no panic. Systems responded in calm, measured ways. Ships moved according to plans prepared long before the enemy arrived. Civilian routes were cleared. Energy reserves were distributed. Allies took their assigned positions without waiting for orders. Elias stood in the command center beside Queen Sarenth and Princess Lyra. He did not wear armor. He did not carry a weapon. His role was not to fight, but to think. "The car will try to crush us quickly," Elias said. "They believe speed and pressure will force us back into old patterns. And if they are wrong?" the Queen asked. "Then they will break themselves," Elias replied. The first clash was not a battle, but a refusal. Virelian fleets did not meet the car head-on. They faded, shifted, and redirected. Car ships chased targets that vanished. Their supply lines stretched too far. Their commanders argued as data contradicted itself. Human and allied forces worked together, sharing information freely. No single fleet held all the answers. No single loss mattered more than the whole. Princess Lyra watched the flow of information with growing clarity. This was not chaos. It was controlled flexibility. She saw how Elias trusted people to act, not just obey. As the conflict continued, the car grew frustrated. They pushed harder, burning resources faster. Their strength became their weakness. Then Elias made his final recommendation. "They are tired," he said. "They doubt their leaders. Now we show them the truth." A message was sent across open channels. Not a threat, not a demand, an offer to withdraw. The car warlords were stunned. They had expected fear or defiance, not confidence without aggression. Some called it a trick. Others saw something worse, an enemy who did not need to win loudly. The car attacked anyway, committing their remaining forces into one final push toward the Varelian capital system. They never reached it. Allied fleets closed in, not to destroy, but to block and contain. Navigation routes collapsed into confusion. Engines failed under unfamiliar interference. Car ships found themselves trapped by their own numbers. With no clear victory ahead and no clean retreat behind, the car command finally broke. The withdrawal order came too late. What remained of the car dominion fled, scattered and humbled. Their belief in unstoppable force shattered. When silence returned to the stars, it was heavy and real. The queendom had survived, not through dominance alone, but through unity, adaptation, and trust. In the days that followed, Queen Seirinth addressed her people. Her image spread across every system. "We stood at the edge of collapse," she said. "Not because our enemies were strong, but because we feared change. A human showed us another path. One we now walk together." She turned toward Elias, standing beside Princess Lyra. "The question I asked was never about marriage alone," the queen continued. "It was about whether we were ready to grow." The court was silent as Elias stepped forward. He did not kneel. He bowed, as he always had. "I did not save your empire," he said simply. "You chose to save yourselves." Princess Lyra spoke next, her voice steady and clear. "Our future will not be built on old fear," she said. "It will be built on shared strength." The union was announced soon after, not as a spectacle, but as a symbol. A bridge between worlds. Across the galaxy, the message spread. Humanity was no longer a small voice asking for space. Humanity was a partner shaping the future. The ceremony itself was quiet. No massive crowds. No overwhelming ritual. Just honesty. Elias stood beside Lyra beneath the open sky of the capital, stars visible through the transparent dome above. He felt no triumph, only responsibility. Lyra looked at him, not as a ruler seeking support, but as an equal. "You never tried to rule us," she said softly. "I never wanted to," Elias replied. "That was why it worked." In the years that followed, the queendom changed. Laws adapted. Alliances strengthened. Smaller species found protection without submission. Humans learned as much as they taught. The queen stepped back from power, watching with quiet pride as her daughter ruled with clarity and balance. Elias remained what he had always been, a human. He listened, he questioned, he adapted. When new threats appeared, they were met not with fear, but preparation. Other empires took notice. Some welcomed humanity, others feared it, but none underestimated it again. Far from the capital, on a quiet balcony much like the one where it had all begun, Elias stood watching ships move among the stars. Lyra joined him, their hands resting comfortably together. "Do you ever wish you had said no?" she asked. Elias considered the question carefully. "No," he said. "Because humans never grew by staying where it was safe." She smiled slightly. Below them, a new generation looked toward the stars, unaware of how close everything had come to ending. And across the galaxy, a simple truth had taken root. Humanity did not conquer through force. Humanity changed the rules of survival, and the universe was no longer the same.